Alright, we'll try this again. So this video, we're going to go through some of the new features that I've been working on. And hopefully it will work this time. So the important thing is, this is about audio. So we'll create a new project. You might have seen something else that was in there that will pique your interest. But first, we'll go here. So we have sounds, and now we have samples, and we have synths. Synths are synthetic sounds. Yes, that doesn't have a little logo, so the button's terrible. I will add a this little triangle that I drew to there. So what is a synthetic sound? It's a synthesizer sound from like what you would hear from computer games from the 80s. And so forth. So now you can create those within Glitter without having to use any external app. So no NES retro sound generator tool that you might use. You can do it all here, kind of, mostly. So first off, we'll test the sound. I don't know if that's going to be on the recording or not, because I think my screen editor is, well, my screen recorder is only recording it from the microphone. So hopefully you can hear, I'll make sure it's as loud as possible, so you can hear it in the background. So that creates a nice little sine wave sound, like some nice tone. I'll just quickly go through some of the features because I'm going to do a proper video on how it works otherwise. But basically this is your volume envelope. So the envelope is the shape of the sound. So this just means you start at 0 here and then you go up, and over time, so here it's at maximum volume and it comes down, and then it sort of plateaus for a while and then it comes down again. So this is like an advanced ADSR envelope. So attack, sustain, decay, release, or attack, decay, release. So attack is the rising part, decay is that part, sustains this part, and this is here. So a lot of sound effects follow this pattern. You can remove points. I've just realized that center and align neighbors don't work yet, but that's okay. Or we can delete that one. So we can delete that, make it a bit easier. Or we can add, if we double click anywhere, we can add a new point. So we can create a sound that goes all over the show, like that, and then we play it. I don't know if that will come through on the recording. So we'll just delete that one, and we'll delete that one, and we'll delete this one. So we only really need like that. So that's the volume envelope, but you can also do a frequency adjust. So if I double click here and then I double click there, I have 2 new points. So the center line, there should be like a little ghosted line in the background so you can tell where the center is. That's the given frequency. So if we, down here you have base frequency, and that's the basic frequency that the note is playing at. So this is 440 hertz, which is like an A something or other. And we have the wavelength and all this and a few other extra things here that don't matter yet. But we can adjust the frequency from the base frequency over time. So if we test it now, I don't know if you hear, but it goes up high and then down low. So this, if you go up to the top, that's currently 1 octave higher than the base frequency, and if you go down, it's 1 octave lower than the base frequency. If you try and adjust the base frequency, it's a sort of geometric slider. So towards the top, it goes very fast, and then towards the bottom, you've got a lot more fine detail. If you click on this little thing here, you can choose from a bunch of random notes. You also have ring modulation. So if you turn that on and then you play it, it's very hard to tell what's going on there. Maybe we should put the frequency adjust back to the middle. it's sort of doing, so ring modulation is quick changes in the volume, and you would have quite a low frequency. So this is at 4 hertz. So frequency is the number of times you have a wave per second. And again, you can also change to different, I haven't done it in this first one yet, but you can change to different waveforms. So if I go square and play it, it has a sort of much more harsher, more digital sound to it. There's triangle as well, which has its nice little properties as well. These are all the standard ones that you would have got. That has a sort of harsh sound to it. And then there's white noise, which doesn't pay attention to the frequency so much. And then there's brown noise, which if you click brown noise, you can change the step size. It's very hard to get that to work the way you want it to. That's what it sounds like if you do white noise. So back here though, you can do the same thing here. So we can use a square wave for the modulation of that, and then it's a very sharp on and off, and you can change the frequencies and all of that kind of stuff. You can also do pitch modulation, so you can do the same kind of thing. We'll turn off the pitch ring modulation, and then we'll do that. We'll go that back down onto 10. And that creates a sort of like alien UFO kind of sounds. Quite good for that if you use a sine. If you use square, it becomes more like an alarm, or it becomes like that. If you go real low, it will just go backwards and forwards between two sounds. And this is how much. So if you change the pitch swing to quite high, that's got a, I'm supposed to change this slightly, I think. You get funky little effects like that. I'm not going to go through what derez and bias mean today. Bias is just like, I have to draw a picture, I think, of the waveform. Bias is shifting the waveform to be biased towards one side or the other. So if you imagine a sine wave going up and then coming down, if you change the bias to like 0.1, then the first part of the rise and fall will be quite quick, and then the second part will be quite slow. So most of the time this won't have much effect. If you change it here, it changes the sound quite noticeably. I'm gonna have to go back and type that in. At some point when you right mouse click on that, the options will come back for resetting to sensible values. As I said, this is an ongoing thing, so you know, this is just a start, but you can actually do a variable bias. So if we turn that off, that's not what I was just thinking. Is that the sound it's supposed to be? Oh, I've changed the pitch, haven't I? That's why it sounds wrong. So we'll go back to 440. That still sounds off. How do they? Oh, the bias is not shifted. Okay, that's an error. Okay, it sounds roughly normal, but we can now bias do variable biasing. So if you have it there, that's 0.5. So then we might bias one way. Technically, it doesn't really matter if you, like, it's kind of symmetrical, but we'll do this and you can get this. Hopefully these sounds come up, but you get the nice sort of phaser effect. It doesn't have phaser and flange effects yet, but we'll add those in hopefully at some point, maybe at least the flange effect. So there'll be more effects that you can add in. The derezzing is just, derezzing works well if you're playing with like white noise, because again, I'll have to go through and draw a picture of what these things look like on the waveform. But this will actually change, at least you have some control over the pitch. But why that is happening is, again, for another video. But of course you can actually, we'll turn that back to white, the sine wave. You can actually modulate on random white noise, which gives an incorrect sound. We don't want to do it with that. We want to randomly change the pitch with white noise, and we'll set up the derez, and we'll do that, and you should get like this kind of neat kind of randomly all over the show. Might set the D-res to 6. So you can get some neat effects out of some random things there. And the one other extra thing that you can do, even though that's on the wrong side here, is you can click and add another track. So if you have 2 tracks, so we're going to make this track well over the other side. The dorky, awkward way of doing it. So there'll be some preset waveforms, so you don't have to redo this every single time. But on track 2, we'll make this a square sound, and then we'll make it much lower and bassy sound. And so basically you've got the ability to combine 2 different sounds. So this could be useful if you want to have, well, I think there's a few errors in it. The thing wasn't selected. So yeah, you can create 2 different notes. So if you want to create a Mario jump sound, then you'd have 2 tracks. One track would be the very first note, which is like a B, I think, and then the coin collecting sound I'm thinking of. And then the second note is a E, I believe. That's how I made them before. So we'll go through a tutorial, and there'll be like some built-in sound effects. But yeah, when you do that, then you have some extra power to do some more complicated sound effects. Eventually there will be a more advanced synth editor that will have the kind of drag and drop where you have like little inputs and outputs, and so you have like a processor, so there might be the basic sound thing, and it takes a waveform, and that waveform can go through another waveform, and then you can have that the way that I'm sure most professional synth things work. But I started this way, and I think this will be easier just to get straight into. So a few more of the things here. Mix is if you have more than one track. This normalizes it so you never get cutting off, but this allows clipping. So I don't know if you hear a difference, but if the 2 waveforms add up, or the 3 waveforms, or how many waveforms you've got, sorry, how many samples you've got, tracks, how many synthesized sounds you have, if the actual wave values add up to be higher than the maximum, then they will be clipped at the top, or if they are normalized, then everything will be reorganized so that they don't clip. So that's just a personal choice. Again, you'd have to sit down, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, and I've used some weird words for some things, like I'm sure bias and D-res are not the words I should be using, you'll understand. Like I had to draw some pictures, and then it'll be more obvious what's happening for everything. You can change the length. At the moment, this doesn't like extend or decrease this. There will be some option to extend a track so that you want to add 2 seconds to the end of the thing, but you don't want to have to rearrange everything. So I've extended the sound. At the moment, it's kind of useless because yeah, I haven't, it's not scaling, or it's not readjusting the waveform, which is something you might want to do and something you might not want to do sometimes. And also at some point you'll be able to like select a block of things and just shift them around, and that kind of stuff. So there's lots of scope for user interface stuff as well. You have the sample rate. So in cases where at the moment when you use these sounds, they are converted into sample sound effects, so they are not played as synths. If you export them out to like your Scratch project, obviously they'll be converted into WAV files, and if you convert them out to the HTML output, at the moment they're converted to WAV files. In the future they will be actually exported out as synthesized data, and then they'll be synthesized on the fly when your project is run, which means that they won't take up much space at all, which means these sound effects will be very small for your final project. So that's quite good. But at the moment it creates WAV files, and this lets you just select the bit rate, so you can have a low bit rate, and you can test it out. You can see it's a bit, with that kind of sound, it's a bit rough when you do a low bit rate. And you can choose to be 8-bit or 16-bit. I think most of these sounds will will be absolutely fine if you choose 8-bit. One thing about the fact that it's creating WAV files is that sometimes if you're doing modulation, for example, and you're using a random, well, there's a few odd quirks there, aren't there? How did I get the pitch modulation to show up? Yeah, what was I going to say? Yeah, if you're using like a random thing here, every time you play the sound effect, like what I did before when I had the very low thing rate and I had the D-res on and it made the sort of funny sounds. Every time you play that sound, it will be different because it's synthesizing a new one. But if you create a WAV file, it will always be the same. Whereas with the synthesizer, every time you load your project, it will create a different sound. Kind of a quirky thing, but you can work around that. You can have a seed value for the random value generator. And so that's most of the features of this thing. There is one extra. If you want to delete the. Oh, if you want to disable the track, that sets it up to be deleted. So like the rest of the project, it has the plus and the cross and the undo. So if you do that, this track is no longer part of it, and when you save your project, it won't get saved. So if you close everything down, you'll never see this track again, but you can get it back at any point by doing that. There's no way to disable a track at the moment. That's next time. But one other thing is there's advanced options. So if you click on the advanced options, you can actually change the pitch modulation over time, and you can change the frequency over time, again, like you can with the other things. So these things work very similar to that. Ring modulation, also, if you choose the advanced options, it does the same thing. So you can create some really quite fine-tuned sounds that have quite a varied texture. You can name tracks, but that really has no purpose other than for your own reference. So this is like the moo part and this is the track part, and you can change the colors. So originally I had it so that these were buttons and they changed color. So I wanted you to be able to conceptually work out that they're different tracks. So because you're using the same editor all the time, the colors are just there so that you know which track you're currently working on. So it's kind of like a mental thing to make it easier to work with. And yeah, I forgot this thing. This thing has these letters, but it doesn't need them. That's okay. So there's quite a few little missing things there. But anyway, we've got that out of the way. So now you can create synthesized sound effects in the project. So what else have I added? There's been a few bug fixes, important one, and some sort of relaying out of stuff. I don't know why that one doesn't go. Oh, I do know why it doesn't go all the way to the end. Yeah, so some things are centered a bit better and maybe laid out a bit better, and there were some bugs with the image editor and a few other little quirks of some bugs with this tool. That's quite funny. What have I gone and done wrong this time? Oh my gosh, how did I get it to do that? Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, so this is relates. I just realized I've mixed up my width and my height here. So one thing that I have changed is now projects can be either 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second. So this is like the turbo warp extra feature. So Scratch always has, I've got these the wrong way around. I must have. So it creates a new project with them the wrong way around. So now you can actually have, so that should be 480 by 360. But the new costume, if I make a new costume, it will be the wrong way. All right, it's the right way. This one's the right way around. Fill it in with yellow, red. All right, so that's what it should look like. Yeah, so now if you want, you can change your project to have a wider window, to have a wider height. So you could make it widescreen. So using 360, that's 16:9. So if you go up here and you saw the new 16:9 app project, that will just create the project basically like this. It's 60 frames per second, it's 640 by 360. You can go all the way up to 1920 1080. So there will be a little button that you have here that you can choose presets. So this is like normal high definition, but not ultra high definition. If you do this, nothing else changes except when you go to the default layout. You can see now that the screen size is all the way up here. But this will not work when you export to Scratch. Obviously, it will just work weirdly. And at the moment, it doesn't work when you export to the HTML. But before I release the next version, the HTML code will be fixed up, and also that little quirk where I've mixed up my height and width in the new project. What was I going to say? Yeah, if you do this and you create a new background image that is like that is a as you can see that my guide is 300 pixels by 400, so it's, why is that the wrong way around? Shouldn't it be the other way? Oh my gosh, another little bug. 400, 300, 3000. Oh no, what? 300, 400. That was not what it said a minute ago. Okay, well we have a bug there. But anyway, this is now a 19, but you'll find that because I haven't optimized the editor, it's very clunky to work. It's not like it's still quite usable, but if I try and draw a shape, it takes the machine, and that's because it has to do a huge conversion every single time of the entire frame, when it doesn't really have to do that. It only has to do it on the area that I did stuff on. And I could probably store things in a better format, a format more similar to what the graphics card is using, which is what I have to change. But you'll find that for the most part, it's still usable. But I would, if you're going to do a 1080p project, you might want to do the graphics in an external editor. Though it's well behaved, so it's not slowing the GUI down. It's just you can clearly see it doing stuff. So anyway, those features have now been added. They have a lot of testing. Well, not a lot. There's a bit more testing that I want to do, and a few bugs obviously that I've come up with that I want to fix. Then hopefully I'll be releasing a new version soon. So I just thought I would come back and show what I'm currently, because I haven't made a video for a month, what's happening. So these are quite cool little additions. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Bye.